What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB. I'm here today with the review for P-Valley Season 1, Episode number 5, titled Belly. So you guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this episode review because this was another good ass episode. Alright, you guys, so I'm going to go a little bit out of order, but I'm going to make it all make sense. So this episode, I'm going to start with Mayor Ruffin. So we see Mayor Ruffin. So him and Andre, they are at the barbershop. And Mayor Ruffin is talking about the white people. I think he's talking about that guy, Bill, that, they're dealing with the casino. So, he's telling the barber to hook Andre up. And then Mayor Ruffin is dressed up because he's going to go to this event. Now, I was so confused. Well, I wasn't confused. Yes, I was. And I'm sure you guys why I was confused. Because you guys remember last week's episode, Mayor Ruffin called his assistant a bitch. And she's still working for him. I'm like, is that the only job you can get to be disrespected by Mayor Ruffin? I mean, he called you a fucking bitch. Just called you a bitch and she's still working for him. Couldn't be me. I'd sue his ass. I would sue the shit out of him. Like, he called her a fucking bitch. A bitch. So Uncle Clifford shows up to talk to Mayor Ruffin, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more, why he's meeting with Mayor Ruffin. So Clifford is playing hardball with Mayor Ruffin because remember, Autumn got all that information from Andre about the sales of these lands. This barbershop, they're paying them so much money, but then there's another barbershop on the other side of town, not far from that one, that's owned by white people, and they're paying the white people more than they paying the black people. I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. Like, your own people do you wrong sometimes. Like, I guess the saying is true. All skin folk ain't kinfolk, huh? Because Mayor Ruffin, like, damn, this is a black-owned barbershop, but you gonna shortchange the nigga, but get a white person more money. Ain't that some bullshit? So, like I said, Uncle Clifford was playing hardball with Mayor Ruffin, and then once Uncle Clifford left, Mayor Ruffin is mad. We see him talking to Andre. He's asking, Andre, did you and Uncle Clifford fuck? He said no. He said, well, how did he get this land appraisal? He said, I must have left that information at the Pink. He was like, I ain't never left nothing up in no coochie. Well, you and Andre are two different people. Andre is blinded by Autumn's cooch. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. All right, you guys. So the episode opened up and we see Mississippi. So Mississippi we see somebody recording Mississippi. And then there's a woman there by the name of Lauren. She just went through a divorce and she got a big settlement. So she in the club spending her whole money. I'm like, damn, how much of a settlement did you get? And you celebrating, talking about she's spending half of it. I'm like, shit. Okay. So then, she got Gidget and she got Mississippi dancing for her. And, she looks at Mississippi's, she's looking at Mississippi and her body. And then she tells you smell like a baby. And then she just starts crying out of nowhere. I'm like, girl, what the fuck just happened? And then, Mississippi is giving her a bit of a pep talk. I'm like, I would not be being no therapist to this woman. Like, she in her throwing the ones at me. Let me dance for them. But then she passes out. I'm like, well, damn, she was that drunk? So then in Uncle Clifford's office, we see as Sheik's looking at Lil Murder who passed out on their couch. I'm like, ooh, Uncle Clifford, you put it on him and he's sleeping? Like, yes. So she puts her wig on and then, she hears Lauren drunk ass outside of her office singing. So she go outside and, she escorts her out. Now on the outside of the club, it's, Diamond, Quita Maxwell from from the Has and Have Nots. That's all I don't know what her character's name is on here. So I'm gonna call her until I know what her character name is. I'm gonna call her Quita. Speaking of Has and Have Nots, that returns August 25th, which happens to be my best friend's birthday. I will say that with this show versus the Has and Have Nots with Tyler I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Lepley. I enjoy him as Diamond more than I do as Benny. God. So outside on the Pink, there is a foreclosure sign saying that, the Pink will be up for auction in 14 days. So then, as Uncle Clifford is escorting drunk ass Lauren out, she looks at everybody. She's like, "What the hell is going on? Like, is Mercedes dead? Is Mercedes dead?" And then she looks and she see the foreclosure sign. When she saw the foreclosure sign, that bitch passed out. I'm like, God damn. So Mississippi is looking. She's screaming because she see that her video has gone viral. So I see that's what Mississippi likes to go viral, which there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't want to pause here. No. Yeah, I'm gonna pause here. All right, you guys. So I'm gonna sprinkle this. Well, I might as well talk about that. So we see Autumn. So Autumn is, trying to wire some more money to her account. And she's been told that she can't wire the money because her account is frozen. And she's like, why is my account frozen? Like, you guys told me that there was unlimited, the only reason why I use you guys is because I can have unlimited transfers. And a woman was like, yeah, we did that for people whose families were affected by the hurricane. But now, we got to get back to our policy. And she says, you've done 10 in the last few days. I'm like, 10 in the last few days? Like, damn, how much money are you transferring? So then the teller notices that there is a car that is fastly approaching the the door, the glass, and they scream, and it is Lauren's drunk ass who was on a high-speed chase with the cops. So then we later see Lauren, she got arrested, and we see Mercedes being booked, and Mercedes is asking about her one phone call, and the guy Jesse that's booking her, he tells her that there's so many other people waiting in line to get a phone call, but the phone is broke. I'm like, so the payphone in the prison is when the jail is broke. How the fuck does that happen? So, Mercedes overhears Lauren and she's singing a song, and she's like, whose song is that? Who sing that song? She said, Lil Murda. She said, Lil Murda. So then, they take Mercedes and Lauren to their cell. And then I noticed as they were walking, I'm like, wait a minute. There's no separation with men and women. They got women on one side and men on the other side. And they also have a transgender in the cell with the men. And I'm like, that is so fucked up. I think that's fucked up. But that's a different story for a different day. So, so Mercedes, when she get in the cell, now, I don't know why they did this. Like, I get that it's probably overcrowded, but y'all ain't got nowhere that y'all can put the people. Like, that's the issue in my hometown. That was the issue in my hometown a few years ago, that our jail was overcrowded with people. And they had to build a second jail. Speaking of which, I had to build a second jail. So they use my tax dollars for a jail, but the streets in my hometown are raggedy. Some of the streets are raggedy as fuck. That is really sad. But what else? Oh, so when Mercedes got in their cell, she saw Patrice. When she saw Patrice, it was on site. Like I said, I don't know whose video. I might have commented on Ashley's video or Roxanne's video. But anytime it was Ashley's, I remember. Anytime I would have saw Patrice, if I saw a penny roll across the ground, if I saw a penny, it would be on site. I would have popped the shit out of Patrice. Like, you literally stole $20,000 from her. So then there's this older woman in the cell with her, and she's talking about, I don't care what your mama did, you don't put your hands on her. I would have said, bitch, shut up, because you don't know what she did to me for me to beat her ass. Like, shut the fuck up, lady. And now Patrice want to cry. Like, Patrice missed me with the whole ass bullshit. Like, miss me with that shit. But let's move on. All right, so also at the jail cell, we see a guy, and he says that his wife went missing during Hurricane Drake. So this has nothing to do with like the hurricane that hit Houston a few years ago. This is a completely fictional everything. And he says that the Houston police won't help him, and the man is like, well, Chuckalisa, you so far away from Houston. So then the man starts to cry, and the cops say, okay, do you have a photo of your wife? Because we'll put up flyers about her. He says, and if I do get any hits about it, who should I reach out to? He says, just reach out to Montavious Hill. I'm like, Montavious? Uh-oh, that's Autumn's man. So then Uncle Clifford shows up, and she's mad about that foreclosure. So she goes and talks to one of the officers. He says that, well, it wasn't me that put that foreclosure. It was one of my deputies that did that because I was out cleaning up your mess because one of your patrons was out drunk. He says, good thing I caught her before she hurt anybody. And so the deputy told the sheriff is telling Uncle Clifford that she needs to talk to Mayor Ruffin, and that's why she went to see Mayor Ruffin later in the episode, which I've already talked about. So the sheriff also tells Uncle Clifford that she arrested Mercedes and Patrice, and they both in lockup. And Uncle Clifford, she's like, well, can I see her? And she was like, no. But then he ended up saying yeah. So we see Mercedes, and she's in the cell asking for her phone call. And then I noticed over in the background that there was a nigga over there just going to town on his dick. I'm like, oh my God, that is disgusting as fuck. You act like you ain't never saw a woman before. Like you act like you ain't never saw an ass before, first and foremost. So then, Lauren is starting to sober up, and she, realizes, hey, you Mercedes, ain't you? She says, I came all the way down just to see you dance. She says, but they put somebody else up on stage in praise of you. And she was like, who? She said, they said her name was M.I. crooked letter I. And she didn't finish it, but she was like, fuck. So then Uncle Clifford, she comes down and she's like, so you put Keyshawn on the stage in place of me? She says, well, normally I'm cool with the niggas just tearing the place down, but I need to do something so no. So then, Uncle Clifford tells Mercedes that, she put some stacks on her bail, forget the foreclosure. And Mercedes like, you owe $55,000. Don't worry about that. Like, I'm cool. And then, Uncle Clifford's like, why would they put you and Patrice in the same cell with each other? And Patrice like, keep my name out your mouth. I'm like, Patrice, girl, you done got 2 ass whoopings already. You want to go for 3? Because, I can jump to this TV and we can jump your bitch ass. Like, because you can catch the fade, Patrice. You can catch that fade like 100. You can catch a fade hole. Like, don't get bold over there. Don't do it, Patrice. You in that crooked ass wig. Don't try it, Patrice. Again, Patrice, don't try it. You can catch a fade. 100. So, Uncle Clifford, she tells Mercedes that she wants to help her, and Mercedes says, don't do that. So then, Patrice talking to Mercedes, she's like, that's your pimp. She's like, and Mercedes says, that woman has been a better mother to me than you have ever been. And Patrice like, you think she's been a better mother to you than I have? Yes, Patrice. Clifford, she is a better woman than you. Like, what person steals from a child? And then Mercedes like, you was my pimp because I had a phone bill and a dealer's credit card at 3 years old. I'm like, oh shit. And that's something that I do see that a lot where people do that. Put shit in their kids' names. I'm gonna move on though. All right, you guys. So then we see Gidget. So you guys remember, I don't know if it was last week's episode or if it was the episode before, when Gidget got the drugs from her boyfriend and he asked her was those for her mama, and she said no, they were for Keyshawn, which she was lying. Those drugs are for her mama, and she is making her mama a drug smoothie. I'm like, God damn. So Mercedes called her because that was the only person's number she knew outside of her phone. I'm like, that is. In this day and age, that is really sad that we don't really know people's numbers. All we do is just go to our contact list and hit dial, which I do know some good. I do know like my family's numbers. I know my best friend's number if she doesn't change her number. I do know her number by heart because I look at the contacts list sometimes. And I have a photographic memory, so I do know certain people's numbers. But it is crazy in this day and age that if we go to jail, would you really know anybody to call without your phone? So, Gidget is talking, actually, they told her that it was a collect call from the prison, from the jail. Do she accept the charges? And Mercedes thought she denied, the charges, which I thought she did too, but she didn't. And, she was like, you got into a fight with your mama? And she says, how'd you know that? She said, it's all over the news, Mercedes. So she tells her, Gidget asks her, so what do you want? She says, I need your help to bail me out. She says, well, what? Mercedes says, a shovel. I need money to get out. She says, well, what about you? Didn't you say you was stacking up? She says, the issue. My mama took all my money and spent it. Child, the fact that she stole her money, I would be beating that ass every time I see her. So then once, Gidget asks her how much she needed. She says 2,000. She says, okay, I'll help. And, the guy that, I guess, escorted her to the phone, he hands Mercedes his jacket because he's talking about it's cold in the cell. I'm like, now y'all want to give her something to put on? Because I'm like, when she came in there, y'all didn't give her nothing to cover up, and you got a nigga over here in the cell jacking off looking at her. So then when she gets back to the cell, Patrice wants to make peace with her. I would have been like, Patrice, fuck to the you. Like, fuck you. So Mercedes tells her that money was her way of trying to get Terica back. And, Patrice tells her to leave her with Shell. She says Shell is not her mother, I'm her mother. And then, we find out a little bit more about Terica, Shell, and Mercedes. So Mercedes' baby daddy must have been married to Shell, and they had an affair. I'm like, oh, the plot thickens. The plot thickens. But I mean, the fuck? All right. So let's move over to Gidget. So she texts Autumn because Autumn was trying to still figure out how to wire some money. She was gonna use Haley, but she couldn't. So, like I said, Gidget texts him about trying to get Mercedes out. So then we see them and they go to try to bail Mercedes out. And then Autumn shows up and, Keyshawn's like, what the fuck is she doing here? So then they find out that the bail is not what they thought it was because they have $2,000, but, he said that, well, that part might have been just what it was at processing, but it's actually $5,000. And, the bondsman was a complete perv, by the way. Then he calls them all kind of bitches and he tells them to get the fuck out of his motherfucking office if they can't pay the fucking bail. He says the only way you help us can pay the bail is if you put up your house as collateral or your pussy. I nugged back too. I was like, oh, we finna jump this nigga too. This white man, we finna beat the shit out of his ass. Like we are finna beat him. Only way you can get her out is if you put up your house as collateral or your pussy. Like, damn. Like, I can't, like, it's so stupid to me. Men would love to demean a woman who's in the strip club, but you would go to a strip club and spend all your money on a woman, so isn't it kind of stupid? Isn't it kind of hypocritical? You don't have no problem spending your money on them, but you can talk shit about them, call them hoes, call them whatever you want to call them, but you ain't got no problem tricking all your money on them. So who's really the dumb one? So back in the cell where Mercedes is, now the women are starting to get on Mercedes' side after they find out what Patrice did. And then one of the girls like, can you even preach? And Mercedes is like, she's a pimp. And, she says, yeah, I am a pimp. She says, I started out on my knees, not praying. I'm like, Patrice, we don't need to know what you did because we really don't care what she did. And then she starts to preach to the women. And then, she starts singing a song. Then Lauren jumps in and Mercedes looking at her like, bitch, really? And then everybody else joins in. So Patrice is on her knees and she goes up to Mercedes and she asks her for forgiveness. Now, let's backtrack because Patrice started asking the women why they in jail. One woman said she in jail because she had an ounce of weed and she put it in her baby's diaper. She put it in her baby's diaper, and that was the white woman. Then the black lady that told Mercedes earlier not to hit her mama, they asked her what she did. She said she slit somebody's throat and everybody else backed away from her. Then they asked Lauren what she did, and she was like, I'm here because I got I was drunk. I got arrested for DUI. And I got my husband and I got a divorce because I slept with his. She started crying. I said, who'd you sleep with? She shocked the fuck out of me when she said I slept with his mama. I was like, ugh. And Mercedes was like, what the fuck? And I said, what the fuck? How do you sleep with your husband's mama? Of all people, you slept with his mama? Not his brother? Not his sister? Not his cousin? I mean, I'm glad you didn't say his grandma, but his mama? Damn. So that man can't even look at his own mama because his wife fucked his mama. Lord Jesus. Lord Jesus. So, Mercedes actually got bailed out of jail. And surprise, surprise, it was by Autumn. And I was like, whoa, how did this happen? But let's move on, you guys. All right, you guys, so let's move on. So we see the club is popping, Lil Murda's on stage, he performing. Mississippi once again doing the goddamn thing. So we see Uncle Clifford and Big L. So they in the office and they talking, and Lil Murda comes back there, and Big L asked the question, how does he know how to get back here? I'm like, Big L, do you really want to know the answer? Because I can tell you. Him and Uncle Clifford bumped uglies. That's how he knows. So Lil Murda come in, and I'm starting to see a different side of Lil Murda. Lil Murda got feelings for old Uncle Cliff. I'm like, girl, you better get your man. Because Lil Murda's talking about, he want to take her out. And she was like, take me out where? Like, so we're gonna be two faggots walking around. I'm like, oh, Uncle Clifford, don't do that. Don't do that. Now I know y'all in the deep south, like y'all in Mississippi. So, I mean, in Mississippi, certain things are frowned upon, but I mean, damn. So, Lil Murda tells Uncle Clifford where he wants to take her, and she's like, I don't do dates. I'm like, girl, you better do a date. That boy likes you. And I really do feel like he feeling you, like, girl. And then they kiss. I'm like, oh. So then someone tells, Keyshawn, she's in the dressing room and she's on a high because of her video is, going up and up and up. So then there's a girl in there named Toy who's hating on her. So then somebody tells Keyshawn that, Derek and the baby are there. So when she goes outside to see Derek, I'm like, girl, I know you're not letting this scrawny ass white boy beat up on you. So Derek tells him, Keyshawn that he's back at the shop and she can stay home and, she don't have to worry about anything. But she's like, this does help pay the bills. Everything in me, when I was watching that scene, I just wanted Diamond just to trip him, punch him, choke him, not stroke him. I wanted Diamond to trip him, choke him, punch him, kick him, do anything to him. I can't believe I said stroke him. Oh God, that's hilarious. So, on her way back into the club, she notices Uncle Clifford and Lil Murda kissing each other. I'm like, oh shit. Uncle Clifford said she was gonna go talk to Keyshawn, and Lil Murda said, no, let me handle it. And Uncle Clifford, she was like, whew. I'm like, yes, get your man, bitch. Bitch, get your man. So let's close this episode out, you guys. All right, you guys. So to close this episode out, we see Autumn and Mercedes, and they are actually getting along. And I was pleasantly surprised that Autumn took Mercedes to her place, because when she picked her up from jail, she asked her where to. She said anywhere but here. And then we also find out that Autumn is going, trying to stop the drinking because she gave Mercedes some Kool-Aid. So then, she starts to talk about her story with her daughter. I'm like, are we going to get a little bit more detail about Miss Autumn? But I mean, she's told us just some of the stuff that we basically already have seen, that we've saw. So, Mercedes tells, Autumn that she'll pay her back. She says, don't worry about paying me back. I got more money where that came from. I got more than that. And she was like, bitch, what are you doing? So then, they go inside, and Autumn, in her refrigerator, she got stacks of money, and she gives Mercedes some money. She says, I can get you 10 racks by the end of the week. I'm like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? What are you up to? So, she says, but I need your help. She's like, what do you need me to do? So we see them at her computer, and the thing is, they're going to transfer money from, you know, that account so that they can get it. And she was gonna use her stripper name. And she was like, bitch, don't use that name. She said, so Mercedes is not your stripper name? Because she was about to put Mercedes and she says no. As like Uncle Clifford said, you know, put the last thing that you ate and whatever color your underwear are. So she put Crystal Flowers in there. She's like, what is Crystal? She said, bitch, you been here for how long and you don't know what crystals is? So, you know, she says, but we need IDs. She says, okay, we can get Maine to help us. She's like, I don't want to involve nobody else. She said, Maine ain't gonna tell nobody. That's why the nigga's been in and out of jail so much. So, you know, we also see someone, and it's Montavious. He's looking because, you know, while they're talking, they transfer the money. And Montavious notices that they're transferring the money. And when I looked at the bottom of that screen at how much money has been moved, well, how much, I think it might be how much total, that shit said $100,000. I'm like, what the fuck is Autumn up to? Now, I feel like Autumn and Mercedes gonna get some shit when it comes to Montavious. I don't know how this is gonna tie in, but I am thoroughly invested and I'm interested to tell you, to be honest with you guys. But that's gonna wrap it up for this episode review of P-Valley. Be sure to like this video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification button so you guys are aware of when I drop anything else. Also, stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and until the next one, you guys, I will see you guys later. And you guys, I already did the Real Housewives of Potomac, so there's not gonna be another Real Housewives of Potomac review until next Sunday. But until then, you guys, peace out.